What's going on, YouTubers, gamers and hobbyists out there, and welcome to this solo RPG video where I am looking more closely at the Mythic Game Master emulator. Now I'll put a link up in the corner to another video, the first one where I go over all the tools that is mentioned in there. This is going to be a slightly bit more in-depth look at the Mythic Game Master emulator. Now, this is not to be confused with the Mythic game itself, because Mythic is a game unto itself, and that would be the one you see around with the red cover. And it's not to be confused with the Mythic variations either, which I also have, which is a more of a browny, orangey, yellowy colour. And this one, which is the blue one, is probably the most common one that people are using now. It's certainly well known among RPG players. Now, the great thing about having a Game Master emulator, of course, is not only can it replace a Game Master in a gaming group, it can also replace the group, i.e. you can roleplay solo, crazy as that sounds. Now, of course, you do have to exercise a little bit of common sense here. You can't go running around, for instance, saying, do I find a million gold pieces on the floor? Yes or no, and rolling for that would just be silly. Although, even if you were to use the impossible odds on the fate chart, which we'll come on to in just a moment, there'd still be a small chance that you could actually find a million gold pieces dotted around upon the floor, which of course wouldn't make any sense. So on to the fate chart itself then, which is, I suppose, in many ways is what Mythic is most famous for, although not always for the right reasons, really. The fate chart is pretty awesome in my opinion. The way it's done, the nuances in it gives you a slightly greater than just a simple 50-50 on every roll. There are other oracles out there, and you can get like decked oracles cards, that kind of thing, and some of them look good, and I will be delving into those in the future. I will be having a look at those for sure. Personally, I like to roll dice. Some people, they like to use cards, decks of cards, and that's absolutely fine. Whatever gives you your answer and your stats, basically, right? So let's look at the fate chart first of all then. On the left, you'll see the odds ranging from impossible right the way up to has to be. And underneath, you will see numbers 9 down through to 1, which is the chaos rank. Before we move on with the fate chart, we will switch to the scenes. The scene setup, I don't know what you would call this. This page here, where you come up with the scene setup. So you've got adventure notes at the top. Down the right hand side, a list of characters that are currently in your campaign. So you'd start with yourself, of course, and then go along. If you meet anybody, you would write them down, because they could always make an appearance. Underneath that is threads, where you write down what threads you are. I don't know, I've got to find the golden chalice, or whatever it may be. That could be your main thread. But as you progress through the game, you will notice your threads can change. They can move into other threads. Threads can come to an end, and that kind of thing, which obviously changes the story up. Beneath that is your chaos factor. I'll talk about that in a moment. But you always start a Mythic game with a chaos factor of 5. Well, you start a conventional Mythic game, which is what this is, the blue book, on a chaos factor of 5. Right, so your scene setup boxes. So it's kind of done like a movie. Like, let's go really cliche with this. Scene 1, setup. You meet in an inn. Meeting your friends in an inn, or meeting a group of people in an inn, or we are looking for work. I am looking for work. that kind of thing. Or it could be as simple as the name of the village you've come to. The village of Rohan, like for Lord of the Rings, for example. It's just notes to keep you, knowing what you're doing with the game when it comes to some decisions which you may have to make based on your odds. What are your odds? What are the odds of that happening? The odds of finding a skyscraper in Rohan are pretty slim, for instance. That kind of thing. Anyway, back to the fate chart then, and the chaos rank underneath. You start the game at 5. Now, at the end of every scene, you have to either go up or go down in chaos rank. And as you will see, cross-referencing them with the odds, if you go up or down, this has an effect on how the odds are against something being impossible or has to be. Yeah? If you end the scene, and I'll put it as simply as I can, if you end the scene and you are in control of that scene, it's kind of gone as you have foreseen, your chaos rank goes down. If the scene plays out and you are not quite so in control of it, or it's got a little bit out of hand for how you were hoping it would go, then it goes up, and that affects the randomness of your rolls. In the middle, you will see the numbers, which are the odds themselves. They are the percentages of what you need to roll. For example, chaos factor or chaos rank of 5. You ask a question, is this door locked? I have no idea, 50-50. So you cross-reference it with 50-50, and you can see the chances of it being locked are 50%. Anything to the left of that, up to and including, up to before 50, so below 50 is a yes, including and above 50, so 50 or more is a no. You'll also notice there are small little numbers to the left and right. They represent exceptional yes and exceptional no. Right, so what's an exceptional yes or an exceptional no? Okay, you've established, let's say for the sake of argument, the door is open. You open it and go in. Is the room, you could ask, see, it depends on how you phrase your questions. If you ask, is there a monster in the room? Yes or no, that will tell you. Or if you ask, is the room occupied? Yes or no, it could be, but it could be a friendly occupancy, we don't know. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, you've asked, is there a monster in the room? And you roll an exceptional no. So not only is there no monster in the room, but you cannot ascertain any evidence of any sort of life, living or otherwise, dead or, or anything. It's just dead quiet, nothing. You detect nothing. Now, if you rolled yes, is there a monster in the room? Yes, there's a monster in the room. You can decide what that is later on a different random table. An exceptional yes would be, not only is there a monster in the room, there's 10 monsters in the room more, or it's a really bad monster, because, obviously you can say, okay, there's a monster in the room. Is it on a par with myself stats wise? You can either roll yes or no, of course. And if it is, then you've got to roll on a table or find a random monster that is roughly on a par with yourself. That's basically how that works. But as I said earlier, the fate chart is what Mythic is very famous for. But let's not lose track of what else we have with Mythic. Now, before you start a scene in Mythic, you have to roll the chaos factor. That is, do you roll your chaos, whatever your chaos rank is for the start of this scene, you have to roll a d10, and it'll either be higher or lower, or equal to the number of the chaos rank that you're starting on. Depending on whether it's an even or an odd number will depend upon, well, first of all, you roll, does your scene go ahead as planned? It'll either be yes or a no. but it can be altered. The scene can be altered, or it can be interrupted. Now, how you determine that is on the the whether it's odds or evens that you roll. Now, if it's interrupted or it's altered in some way, you'll notice there's an event focus table that you can roll on. Now, this is the bog standard Mythic. So this is what happens on there. As you will see, it goes from 1 to 100, and you roll on that table, and these are the things that are going to happen. So let's just say NP. You roll a 90. That's NPC negative. So something negative happens to one of the NPCs, possibly someone you are with or you've just met. Now, what that is, you've got to figure out the meaning and the subject. So the event meaning, so on these tables, you have 1 to 100 tables. Now, this is where a little bit of improvisation comes into play. You've got to be able to make something out of the two results that you roll. So let's just say, I'm not even looking at the table at this point. You roll a 20 on the event meaning action. You roll a 20. So that's truce. And on the other table, you roll 47. Truce, attention. So something negative happens to an NPC. Truce and attention. So to me, that would indicate one of the NPCs that I'm with, their attention is not on the game, not on the ball, and they oversee a trap that they've just walked into. They just stepped into a trap. That's how I would interpret that. So whether it's a pressure plate that springs a trap or something like that, and they get hit with a poison arrow or something like that. That's how I interpret that kind of thing. But those tables are the things which make it really, which make the game move along in a very random way, and it's difficult to ascertain how. You can't say to yourself, "Oh yes, I'm going to do this, and this is definitely going to happen." If you were the GM for a group of players, yes, you could say that. They are definitely going to meet this person, and he's definitely going to do this or say that. Whereas in Mythic, you have no idea really. You have a rough idea. The odds are that things are going to happen in a certain way, but at the end of the day, you just don't know. And that's what makes Mythic so great. That's all I want to say about it really. Mythic, it's a very, very, very valuable tool for solo role-playing, or for simply getting a group of friends together. Perhaps a bit of a light-hearted role-playing fun. Nobody wants to be GM, so we'll just use the Mythic GM emulator, and we'll just work together, beer and pretzels kind of thing. Anyway, but that's it. That's the Mythic Game Master emulator. Of course, there's a lot more in the book which tells you about interpretations and all that kind of thing, examples of role play, and how to incorporate your questioning into the game to get a good flow and things like that. So very, very, very important. And that's it for the standard Mythic Game Master emulator. It literally is creative, dynamic role-playing adventures without preparation. It really is. Thanks ever so much for watching. Remember, all brushes lead to war. I'll see you on the next video. There will be more to come. Thank you so much, and goodbye.